Weekly update for Friday, October 6th, and I'm holding up Batvark number 1 because Diamond is down to their last 3 copies of Batvark number 1, which is very good news a month after publication, making it the second Cerebus in Hell title to sell out. The other one is Cerebus in Hell number 0. And for us, the news gets even better because Aardvark Comics number 1, which has been in stores since last Wednesday, is down to 40 copies. Just to put that in perspective, Diamond Comics over-ordered by 300 copies beyond what they had orders for, and it's now down to the last 40 copies in stock. So good news for us, sort of bad news for people who are looking for Aardvark Comics number 1. Go and contact your local comic store as soon as possible and see if they can get one of the few remaining copies, if there are even copies remaining at this point. Which leads us to Strange Cerebus number 1, which is the Cerebus number 1 for October, and in stores October 25th, God willing, and are in stock at Diamond, but in roughly the same quantity as they had on Aardvark Comics number 1. So I think you see where I'm going with this. If you want one of the Strange Cerebus number 1, you're really going to need to be at your local comic store on October 25th. Just word to the wise. And the other big news is I lost a letter. I can't remember the last time that I lost a letter around here, and particularly a letter that I was going to use on the weekly update. So you'll just have to pretend that I'm holding up the letter from Michael R. of Easton, Pennsylvania, who is asking about the Cerebus Archive number 7. When is the Cerebus Archive number 7 going to be done? And there's 2 answers to that question. The first answer is, if we're doing it ourselves, probably not until sometime in the new year because of all the stuff that we're having to do here. The other answer is, if Alfonso Espinos of Studio Comics Press, who has just opened a storefront, by the way, in the Frederick Street Mall here in town. Hard to believe, but yes, we have a storefront for indie comics. More on that in a moment. If Alfonso Espinos, as part of his business, is going to be running Kickstarters, then we'll probably be able to get it up and running sometime in the next week or 2. So stay tuned for news on that. And speaking of the stay tuned on news for things, the wrist I have been resting for the last week since I did the Cerebus hardcover number 1 drawing, and actually didn't have any word balloons to do on the Cerebus in Hell strips this week, because most of it was against the amazing background that Benjamin Hobbs has done. Actually, let me show you Benjamin Hobbs' amazing crowd background that he did, just because I said, Benjamin, can you do me a crowd scene in case I need a crowd scene up ahead? And this is for Cerebus Woman number 1, which is Benjamin Hobbs' incredibly funny parody of the Wonder Woman number 1 cover, with Cerebus's face grafted onto the Whore of Babylon. Once more into the breach, my friends. Stampede, you princes of Maine, you kings of New England. And we were off and running with the Cerebus Woman parody. And this we'll just throw that in there. There is Benjamin Hobbs' crowd scene of just about every character you could imagine in Cerebus in Hell, and some that you couldn't, all grafted into one big glorious crowd scene. And bribe our way, I mean. 2 panels it took you to figure that out? Stop distracting me. I'm trying to picture my spice rack. Now, I don't, Cerebus Woman #1, as far as I know, we're working so far ahead. This might be late 2018 or early 2019. We are an absolute joy for our Diamond rep, Matt Demery, because we get all of our solicitations in 8 months, 9 months, 10 months ahead of time. Anyway, the point that I was making was that when you drop word balloons onto a Benjamin Hobbs crowd scene, you really don't need to outline them. They stand on their own just with the drawings going right up to the edge. And because it's a crowd scene, I wasn't putting in balloon tails. So consequently, there was no need to use this week. So stay tuned for next week when I will let you know how the outlining the balloons went. Cerebus Woman #1, coming your way, way up ahead. If you thought the facts was funny, wait till you read the comic book. And also heard from Sean Robinson, who wanted to know, can you get jingles in there? Can we get jingles into the Cerebus Woman parody? Maybe as Steve Trevor? Jingles as Steve Trevor. Why, combined with the invisible robot bulldozer, I think it's probably doable. We will see what happens when I'm working on that this Friday. Did I mention that we're kind of busy around here? We're kind of busy around here. Yeah, this is what it looks like back here right now. This is all of the financial and business records for Aardvark Anaheim, going back to 1872. No, not quite that far back, but here's all of the different categories of documents that are getting filed away, and here's all the boxes and boxes of documents with their little yellow post-it notes indicating what's in the box. That is actually pretty quickly and pretty smoothly getting separated into all of its different categories for the benefit of future Aardvark Anaheim researchers. So Dave Fisher and Rolly have been very busy getting all of this done. So like I say, if we have to do a Kickstarter, it's not going to be until the new year. But Michael, we will do what we can and see if we can get somebody else to handle the Kickstarter details. Stay tuned to A Moment of Cerebus for details. So as you can see, we're definitely not going to be throwing a Kickstarter in the middle of that. We're going to get all of that sorted out first. And the other questions that Michael R. of Easton, Pennsylvania had were about the strange death of Alex Raymond and about You Don't Know Jack. So I'll be talking about those over the next little while. We've still got a certain amount of production left to go on the artist's edition of You Don't Know Jack, illustrating Carson's process for doing those incredibly detailed pages that he does. And that Kickstarter will include the 4 covers of The Strange Death of Alex Raymond. Here they are upstairs at the Off-White House, the original artwork for the 4 Strange Death of Alex Raymond covers. And as I say, we will be doing prints of these as part of the You Don't Know Jack Kickstarter. The biggest problem is that everything has to be done on Strange Death of Alex Raymond Volume 1 and You Don't Know Jack and the 2 Kickstarters attached to it before we set that whole train in motion. And there's no telling quite how long it's going to take to get everything done, but believe me, we're working as fast as we can on that. Sean, Carson, me, we all got our oars in the water and we're all pulling in the same direction. So stay tuned for updates on You Don't Know Jack and the Kickstarter portfolio attached to that. Strange Death of Alex Raymond Volume 1 and the Kickstarter attached to that, and the actual release of Volume 1 through IDW. And thank you for your patience, Michael R., and thank you for the patience to all of the Patreon supporters of The Strange Death of Alex Raymond. Yes, we will have some sort of incentive that nobody else gets except the long-suffering Strange Death of Alex Raymond Patreon supporters. So stay tuned for information on that as well. And special thanks to Brian C. of Ann Arbor, Michigan, who was the winning bidder for the hardcover Kirby 100 book with my signature in it, which is on its way to him. He requested an Elrod bunny, and yes, we're not in the best of shape these days, but we can still do an Elrod bunny like nobody's business. So thank you to Brian C. for his support on that. And just found out from Jeff Seiler, the hardcover Kirby 100 book is sold out. So 1,000 copies gone just in a month or so. Tell you how popular that book is. Definitely get the soft cover while you still can. Okay, that'll do it for the weekly update, and I hope we'll see many of you next week for October 13th.